Correct. I believe it's zoom.com.
Zoom.us.
Okay.
Zoom.us.
Well, let me confirm that, Jennifer. Zoom.us or zoom.com? Oh, it is zoom.us. Someone's asking
yes,
if they
it
can
is.
ask questions.
Yeah, it's a public hearing. We posted it.
Yeah. Yes. During the time that they allow it, yes. Okay, thanks, bye.
Gosh, this isn't working. I can't get this to work. Why isn't nothing coming up? It won't let me. And I'm everybody can hear me right now. Oh. I don't know what this is doing.
this is where you unmute. And then after you're done talking. Unmute, then the red thing goes away.
Okay, so if I want to mute. have we heard from Tom Elliott?
I haven't heard from him this morning, Mary.
I know he intends to come.
I could give him a call,
Yeah,
just check.
I think so. Thanks.
He texted
Sure.
me last night and was just inquiring that I would be present, and so I think he's aware.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
You said his name 3 times, Mary.
I
so-
did. Something's magic. Hi, Tom.
Good morning. How is everyone? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Hi, Mary. Hi, Coraloo. Hi, George.
How you doing? Good morning.
And hi, Sharon. Boy, we're all here, raring to go. You know, we really need to work on getting a 5th member on this board.
Yep, we do.
So I'm hopeful that we can maybe each come up with a suggestion and maybe one of them will stick. I suppose I've got 8:56. I think we need to wait 4 minutes.
Tom, I was going to try to give you a call beforehand, and I'll probably say it during the meeting.
Yes,
But the letter from the neighbor, Michael Stavey,
yes,
the request at the end of that is not part of the decision that's before the Board of Adjustment.
right.
So it's not for this venue.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I was-
whatever the merits of that is, that's
Right.
not for this venue. So,
We would love to have a conversation with Michael about that, but you're right. It's not for this venue. It's for another time.
But the property lines back there on this.
Yes, but, well, and from what George just said, there doesn't seem to be any reason. Well, first, we can't consider it, I understand, but
Yeah.
we could certainly not be opposed to the conversation and the settlement. Because it totally makes sense.
Well, we've talked to Michael already, and so is our son. So there's not a big, it's not a,
We've lived with those property lines.
we've lived with those property lines forever, and they're not the only ones.
Right, right. Has everybody on the board had an opportunity to read that letter?
Yes.
Sharon, have you?
Yes, I have, Tom.
Okay, good. And Coraloo, you've read it, right?
Coraloo did. She told me earlier. So,
Come on, turn over. All right, I show it's 9 a.m., so I'm going to call the Georgetown Board of Adjustment into session. for a hearing regarding Mr. Schnittgren's proposal. The first thing we should consider is probably to approve the minutes from,
Excuse me, Tom, do you want to do a roll call?
oh yes, we better do a roll call. Do you want to do that, Jen?
Sure. Chair Tom Elliott,
Present.
Mary Riddle Clark,
Present.
Cora Lou Anderson. And she's muted, but
Present.
there she is. Okay. And Sharon Racino.
Yes, here.
All right. I don't know what I did with the minutes. I just had them. Oh, here it is. All right. We had our last meeting on January 12th, 2021. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes of that Board of Adjustment meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any corrections or additions?
No, it looked good to me.
Pardon me?
It looks good to me.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes as
I'll
written.
second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved unanimously. The minutes are approved as presented. Okay, let's get on with the purpose of our hearing today. George and Rita Schnittgren are applying to request variance in the block 42 lots 11 to 14 on Main Street between 9th and 10th. George, would you like to go ahead and present your argument?
Well,
Proposal.
sure.
Need to be on mute.
These lots were plotted, original plots from the town of Georgetown, way back in the 1800s. And they, as you can see by looking at the map, I don't have that kind of technology that I can show you on the map. But they are, there's a lot of encroachments. There's an old shed on lot 11 that encroaches into lot 12. And there's another shed that belongs to another one of our neighbors that encroaches on lot 12. And there are and Michael Stavey's house is practically built on the property line on lot 11. And there's another shed on the behind the barn. There's another shed that encroaches on the property line on the west side on lot 11. So there's a lot of little configurations on that lot itself. But the barn itself is just, it's a shed. We call it a barn. Everybody else calls it a shed. And it's a 700 square foot building. And it's, we like it, and we think it should be preserved. But we have a barn on our property, on our house, that we preserve too, because they're old buildings and they're important.
To us.
To us, they are. And I think they should be important to the town too, because they are old buildings.
Right.
So anyway, the lots themselves are not buildable. They're not, I'm going to say not buildable. They're not big enough to do any construction on, period. And they never were developed back in the day because there was never any water or sewer on Main Street. And with the new development across the street, it does make those lots developable if they were large enough. And because they're grandfathered as to 3,700, and Kent, you can interrupt me if I get overboard here.
3750.
At 3,750 square feet for old town lots. And we own 11, 12, 13, and half of 14. And I don't know how 14 got halved, but it's halved. So we're proposing that we divide.
Hello.
We want to move the lot line from lot 11 about 10 feet to enclose that barn, or to enclose the shed into one lot to protect it.
It is not.
But that lot is, even if the line is moved, that lot is still not big enough to build on. You can't build on unless you remove the barn. And we're not going to do that. So that lot sits there,
It's protecting.
and it's protecting the shed against anybody who would develop 12 and 13 and 14. That would be, they could not do anything about that barn.
Not listed and
And it is not a listed building.
it's not
So it's not protected by historical society or any of that kind of stuff. It's just old. So moving that lot line
protects the barn.
protects the barn, but it also means that you have to move the lot line from 12 down to encompass that half of lot 14 to make 3 buildable lots, or 3, developable
To
lots.
protect the barn and to build.
So you'd have a protected barn and you'd have 2 buildable lots there.
Tom, I can share my screen that shows the county GIS map if you would like.
Sure.
Can you all see that now?
Yes.
This area,
See part of it.
that is lot 11. Where it says 906 on it. I don't know why the county has put that there, but when I click on it, that blue area is lot 11. I'll zoom out just a bit. There's 9th Street. There's Main Street.
Uh-huh.
Now I'll zoom back in.
Mhm.
So lot
And
11
that's the 2 houses, and then that's the barn that
Lot
George is referring to.
Lot 11 on this map seems to include the neighbor's house.
It does.
It does.
Okay.
Part of it.
That's the way they did things 100 years ago. And back there, no one ever planned on those lots being developed because the town refused to put in water and sewer.
Let's see there.
So
Who
now
are we
that
hearing?
people are interested,
Who are we listening to?
Rita, the
it's
other
Rita.
owner.
Okay, I thought that was Rita, but
Yeah,
I
I'm hiding in the corner.
need to identify yourself.
I'm sorry.
All right. Go ahead, Kent.
Well, and you can see where the lot line goes through, there's 2/3 of the barn that's on lot 11, and then it extends into lot 12.
You can see the other encroachment.
And then you see the other little shed barn thing
Right.
On somebody else's property.
that's attached to this person's lot. And
Mhm.
then as you continue up, there's lot 13. And then the half of 14. The south half of lot 14.
Right.
And then the north half of 14 is connected to 301 10th Street. The Swiss chalet type house is the
Is
mother.
that a dwelling on the?
Yes.
It's the garage,
It's a garage and dwelling on top
an
of the
apartment
garage.
above it.
Yeah.
What I thought. Okay.
So this is the half lot of 14 that the Schnittgrun's own, the 13, 12, and 11. And in the little spreadsheet in the staff report to you, it says lot 11 is currently 3,250 square feet.
Right.
And lot 12 is 4142, and then 3964 is 13. That's according to the county assessors.
Right.
So, and then what he was talking about was moving this line, and you can see it on his little sketch. He doesn't have an official survey, but moving that line to just north of the edge of the barn. So the barn stays on one lot.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So hopefully, and I can bring that back up any time you want, but I just wanted to,
Okay. Thank you.
might be helpful there.
All right. Anything else, George or Rita?
Well, they left off the little part of 14, that half of 14 is not included in lot 13.
Right. It's
So
just,
Right.
That kind of, but it's unusable the way it is right now. You can't do anything with it.
But only because it's a half lot.
Yes,
It's perfectly buildable if it is combined per your request.
yes. It would
And,
join those lots together.
and I noticed, because the square footage wasn't making sense, because I was trying to figure it out excluding the half of lot 14, but in lot 13, your proposed 3,777 square feet includes that half of lot 14. It has to.
In ours, not in the counties.
Yeah, the south half.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have questions? I have questions that maybe can't, they're probably more properly directed to you, I think, but I welcome anybody to answer them. What is the minimum lot area and width for this area, and specifically block 42?
the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet, according to the code. When that zoning code was done. They do have an allowance for lots that were platted before that zoning code was approved of 25% less than 5,000 square feet. To allow, there's a number of those lots in the historic part of town that are, less than 5,000 square feet. And so that's why they included that in the code, was to allow current lots that are platted to have less than 25% less than 5,000 square feet, which ends up to be 3,750 is the minimum lot size for lots that are already platted. And that's why this came to you, is as part of the, the planning commission, and when they reviewed it, said it needs to have a variance approval as well. Because when you change the lot line, then it's not the same lot that was already platted.
Right.
So that's why the question came to you.
And all three of the lots fall within that 3,750 square feet, that 25%.
Yes.
Right. It would meet that standard if it would be approved. Yes.
And what about most of the lots on block 42, including those on facing Griffith? Are those typically around 3,750 square feet, or are they 5,000 square feet?
Well, and we looked at that. Jennifer can share her screen and show every lot within block 42.
Well, I'm asking that because I want to see what the impact on the neighborhood would be.
Sure. These are all the lots within that are bounded by 9th on the south, 10th on the north, Griffith on the west, Main Street on the east,
And
that
those
block.
square feet on the left.
Right, square feet. So 301 10th Street is 9374, but that's a lot and a half and a little bit more. 926 Griffith is 2,500. 922 Griffith is 5,600. 916 Griffith is 4,500. And on down the list, 908 Griffith is 6,500.
Right.
And then there's a bunch that are, the rest of them are under 5,000 square feet. Now, those are all lots that were currently platted. There are There's one additional that the 2 lots on 908 Griffith. The other lot the house is basically built on 1 lot.
Okay.
They have the barn shed structure on the second lot.
But they're combination of lots.
Yeah.
Most of
So-
them are- they're combinations of lots. There's not one lot that is 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
My
Are those
son-
all concerning houses though that are on those lots? They're no vacant land that you're comparing to, right?
No,
No.
Do you
And
know,
I'd like to add that the 800 block to the south of Main Street, where I live, those lots are 2,925 feet and were plotted as such way back when. So my lot is 2,925 feet. Tracy Troya's lot is the same size. And all of the blocks along that street are of that size, unless they've been added to. Unless an owner was able to buy the adjacent lot to the rear, whatever said lot we're discussing. So,
so you're talking about the block immediately to the south?
yeah. It's my opinion that the general and the historic characteristics of the neighborhood are consistent with lots of this size.
Well, that's what it appears to me. That's why I was asking, how would it affect the neighborhood? Do you happen to know the size of Mr. Stavy's lot?
Yeah, it's 3750.
Okay, so it certainly conforms with that.
It
It
does.
Conform with the one to the north because that's 1.5 lots, but
I
that's.
feel it would be ridiculous to deny this application when we've got lots of, that already take into account that 25% under the 5,000 requirement, current requirement.
I see that we have where are the findings? I'm looking for the 3 findings that we can, I wish, there it is. One of the findings is to include the following condition: a subdivision exemption plat be prepared by a licensed land surveyor in accordance with the town's final subdivision plat checklist. I'm assuming that would be at the expense of Mr. Schnittgren?
Yes.
And-
That was requested by the land planner,
Right,
contract planner that the town works with in order for it to be officially recorded.
right. And of course,
And obviously, an official document like that would need to be prepared.
and we have already contacted Evergreen Surveying, and they've come out and they did this preliminary map. But they wouldn't, they're not going to certify anything until the planning commission approved it. And then the planning commission said that that the Board of Adjustment had to approve it too. So the maps are already ready to go. If you approve it, then the surveyor will do what he needs to do to make sure that everything is hunky-dory.
have we received any other?
There's somebody on the phone that we were
Yeah,
alerted to.
There are a couple people in the chat that would request to speak or ask questions, but we are waiting for the public comment portion
Oh.
of the hearing.
All right,
Tom?
and I think we better open it up to public comment at this time.
Cora Lou has something.
Corlew wants to talk.
Go ahead. You're on mute, Corlew.
Got it. Okay. No, now I'm on mute.
Yes.
No?
You just,
There, you're on mute.
Now you're good.
Okay, whatever you say. I'm just concerned then, how many, there would be 3 buildable lots here then?
Not really, there'd only be 2. The barn, the lot that the shed is on would still not be developable.
It will, 650.
It'd have enough square footage, but in order to build on it, you'd have to remove the barn, and
And that's why we're putting it.
we would
on a
never
lot.
approve that. So
That's
it's not-
okay. That's what I wanted to know, was part of that. And so it would be only two houses that would be there, or
Right.
two vehicles.
Yes.
The
Two
barn
structures.
lot, the barn lot would have to have a 650 square foot per footprint, which is, yeah, somebody could 50 years from now try to put it up, but it's unreasonable to build on it. That's why we're trying to protect the barn in that way by putting it on the land with all the encroachments. And that reduces the buildable area on that lot to a ridiculously low sum.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay,
So then we will have two buildable lots only, correct?
Yes.
Technically three, but
all right, shall we open it up for public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, we have Michael Stavey that would like to speak. Go ahead,
Good.
Michael.
I show him on mute.
You're muted, Michael.
Okay, and if he has stepped away for a minute maybe or something, we do have Sam Winfrey who would like to speak. I'll promote him as well.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Would you
Good
identify
morning.
yourself and tell us your address, please?
301 10th Street,
And your name?
Sam Winfrey.
Okay, Mr. Winfrey, go ahead.
Well, first off, thank you, everybody. This is
Hello.
the first time joining something like this, and I appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions, and I don't know what the format is, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the questions, and if I'm going off track, please check me in.
That's fine, go ahead.
So, good morning, George.
Good morning.
Just a couple of questions. How long have you owned the lot? Lots, I guess I should say, excuse me.
Over 20 years.
And when you purchased the lots, what was your intention?
We purchased the lot because the man who we bought the lots from wanted us to tear the shed down because it was encroaching on his property.
and he was taking us to court.
And he was going to take us to court to have it removed. And so we purchased the lots from him to save the barn. That's the only purpose we bought them for. We knew
So
we
you-
could not develop them because there was no water or sewer on that street.
And that's why we didn't.
And that's why we've never done anything with them, because there's no reason to build on them. Then,
Thank you, George. And I'm sorry, I keep hearing somebody else talking and I just didn't know who that was.
that's Rita.
Oh, hi, Rita.
Hi, Jeff.
Good morning. I was just trying to, I was like, boy, George, you got a couple voices going there. So, and then have you did development before, George? Is your background development?
The only, no, gosh, no. We're teachers.
Oh, okay.
We,
Uh,
the house that we live in, though, we did build this house. This was my grandmother's house, and we refurbished it 40 years ago. And we also own the house across the street, 906 Griffith, that we purchased over 20 years ago also. And our son lives there.
Okay.
And we refurbished that house.
Okay.
So as far as developing, no, but we're really good at preserving. We believe in preserving it.
Well, thank you. And I think I just want to take a step back and make sure I heard you correctly, is that originally you bought it to preserve the barn that you're still trying to preserve. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And that barn is the one that is encroaching on Michael's property?
No.
It encroaches on it.
It's
It encroaches on lot 12.
on 12. Okay, my apology. Okay, I got it. So, and I read through this, and again, this is my first time through a process like this. And I looked at the, I guess the Board of Adjustment, Town of Georgetown, and then the points A through F. And I'm not sure who can answer these questions, but I don't really understand D, and I don't understand why it says on D that such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. So if somebody that could just explain that to me, and just a little bit of background. I have a friend that is in the business of being an attorney in this space, and he tried to help me a little bit with that, but I don't know that I really understood it.
Kent, can you help out?
That often refers to if the actions by the applicant are creating the variance, and is the unnecessary hardship, is there other options that the applicant could do that, you know, is this the only avenue for the applicant? And is that unnecessary hardship, because that's one of the requirements for a variance to be granted, is saying that to enforce the rules, it's creating a hardship to be able to develop that property.
But wouldn't that be, but if they bought the property and they understood the property lines and they did it to preserve the barn, then it doesn't seem that it fits that.
Well, you know, there's lots of different ways to approach that. The problem that it gets to be is that if the property owner cannot do anything with the property, is that creating a hardship for that property owner?
But that would only be if the intentions were different than that when they purchased it.
Well, you can't go into intentions. You know, people can
He
say
explained his
whatever
intent.
their intentions for the property. It's what are they going to do? You know, what is the intended plan for the property?
It was to preserve the barn.
Yeah.
So,
but that doesn't take 3.5 lots to preserve the barn.
right, but that was what the plot lines were, so it hasn't created a hardship.
The lots were unbuildable in the past, and we all know that water and sewer are going to be heading into Main Street really quickly here. And so, I mean, maybe the intent 20 years ago was to preserve the barn, and they were able to purchase 2.5 other lots. But now I feel like it is creating a hardship, because that would render the rest of their land unusable if we didn't approve this, when they're two perfectly buildable lots that would fit the other requirements as far as lot size goes. Does that make sense, Sam?
I mean, it makes sense. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm doing my best to understand. I still don't think D is represented well within the document, but I understand what you're saying. It makes total sense. But I don't think that there's really hardship, because, again, I'll go back, just repeating myself, the intent, I don't believe, was to develop the property. There was no development request when he purchased the property. And now that there is water and sewer, there is a development opportunity that makes it much easier.
Yeah, I don't think we can hold someone to an intent from 20 years ago, however, when the intent obviously has changed. I mean, we've got a development going in across the street, and I know if I own that land, I wouldn't want to be boxed out because, you know, somebody else is capitalizing on the water and sewer lines that are now being installed. And I feel like it's not an unreasonable request to, for the Schnittgren's request of lot changes.
So then, just to make sure I take a step back, because when I originally read through this, it seemed to me that there were going to be 3 lots, and 3 lots were going to be buildable. But I believe, George, what you stated is that now it's going to be 2, and the 1 lot is not going to be developed. Is that correct? And I think that's lot 11.
That's true. We are not going to develop all 11.
My son is not going to.
You know, in 100 years or 75 years, when our sons decide what they're going to do with that property, you know, when they're dead, somebody could buy that property, buy that lot from whoever, and develop it.
Or the barn could fall down, but
or the barn could fall down within the meantime, or get struck by lightning and burn down, or whatever. There's a lot of things that could happen,
And
but
so
it
then-
is not our intent to develop that.
Fair enough. And then what would, and I know somebody mentioned this earlier, I think it was Kent, and thank you. What would be the proposed new lot size of 12 and 13 that includes half of 14. I think I have that right.
3750 over here.
They're all 3,700, over 3,750 square feet.
In that area.
I think proposed lot, let's see, lot 14, the portion that would include 14 and 13, it says 3,777 square feet on the
Right.
proposed.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I was
then
just trying to make sure that didn't change based on my original understanding that lot 11 was being built. So I got it now.
Anything else, Mr. Winfrey?
Not at this moment.
Thank you. And now
Can you hear me?
we're waiting for Mr. Stavey.
hi, Michael.
Michael Stavey here. Hello. I think you've all read my letter. And my first question is, I think that the fences around my property are the legal boundaries. They've been there for so many years. And since George has said there's not going to be any building on it, my fence will not be moved and the lot will not change in size. Is that correct?
You're very correct, Michael. It's not going to happen
In our lifetime,
Okay.
our families.
in our lifetime anyway.
Or your.
Well,
And in
in
mine.
this,
In mine.
Mr. Stavey,
Okay.
this is Tom.
Michael's fine.
Mr.
If
Stavey,
you're going to be Tom, I'll be Michael.
okay. Michael, we cannot rule on that as the Board of Adjustment, but I strongly encourage you to talk to George Schnitgren, who has already told us he wants to talk to you, to settle that. And it's my.
Oh, you cannot rule. You cannot rule on. It. Okay.
No, we're not allowed to do that. That's not.
I didn't know that. I thought that was your purpose.
But talk to him because if my days, I'm a retired lawyer, and if that fence can be established that's been there, you thought about 75 years, in a court of law, you're likely to win that if there's a contest.
Okay. But your board is not allowed to make that determination.
That much. But our board cannot rule on that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that as a matter of law.
So anything else, Mr. Stavey, about?
No, that's it. I mean, the other two lots, I wish them well, and that was my concern.
Thank you very much. Any questions from anybody? In listening to the witnesses and having really no opposition that's been brought forward, I think it makes perfect sense to allow this the variance to occur, and I would be in favor of the subdivision exemption plat be prepared at Mr. Schnitgren's expense.
Then I'll go ahead and move to approve the variance requested of George and Rita Schnitgren, block 42, lots 11 to 14, Main Street between 9th Street and 10th Street of the Georgetown Municipal Code. You getting all this? Section 17.16.041 D1 Historic Residential District Area Bulk Regulations to permit 3 buildable lots of less than 5,000 square feet with the following conditions. Number 1, a subdivision exemption plat be prepared by a licensed land surveyor in accordance with the town's final subdivision plat checklist.
Before we get a second, shouldn't we?
I think,
Those conditions that we have to.
I think you need to go through the findings like you normally do
Right.
on the Board of Adjustment.
Right.
Could I have a question before that?
Sure.
Kent, about the barn, I have the concern that George does as well. I thought it was illegal to take down a historic structure in the historic district.
You have to, yes, you have to get a permission, or approval for a demolition permit in order to
I
take
know
down
there's
a
demolition
structure.
by neglect, but they would
No,
not.
even if it's without neglect, you have to get approval to take down that type of structure. And
So because who knows, 100 years from now, somebody's going to want
Right.
to sell that lot. And I hope those laws are still in place. I also read the part from the design review of their concerns. Did anyone else have a comment on that, or we're not supposed to go into that?
you can certainly review it. It's definitely for your information, and they provide a recommendation to you. So,
Well, I agree with their concerns.
right.
All right,
Much concern is the problem. The historic building will be protected.
That's
The
not
neighbor,
hard.
because it has not, and that's our purpose, because it is not listed. It is not protected. In fact, the DRC told us to tear down the barn on our property when we remodeled here, and we refused. So I don't know, how protected that would be. That's why we're moving this line. The problem is how we're protecting it is there are so many encroachments on this property and so little square feet, you really can't build on it.
all right.
And
I have the concern that we're approving changes in lot size that may be, don't know how to say it, but may be taken by others as something that will continue.
Well,
I started out with that same objection, but in reading the proposal and especially in listening to the evidence today, I'm convinced that it certainly satisfies the neighborhood, and I don't see a good reason not to deny this for historical reasons.
I agree with Tom.
Lot size agreements.
Tom,
Yes.
Sam, he's put in the chat that he has one more question.
Okay.
So
Public comments reopened.
if Jennifer, if you could, or Sam, if you could type it in the chat, I can just repeat it if you'd like to. He's promoted and he's.
I think I'm in now. Thank you.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I heard a couple of things and I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. So it is the proposal that is tentatively being approved today is for 3 buildable lots, or is it for 2?
It's for 3.
Okay, so lot 11 is still being approved to be built on, even though it's not, but it is a buildable lot. Did I get that right?
Well, the size requirement would allow it to be built on, but there's other criteria. When you still have the shed or the barn on that property, it creates other difficulties to be able to build on that lot. Yes, the size would allow it to be built on at some point, but only if the shed or barn is removed.
That would be up to a future planning committee and DRC committee recommendations.
And if what the neighbor to the south, as far as the fence, and if that is agreed to, I'm sure that would end up, if the fence ended up being moved, it would actually probably end up falling below the square footage requirement, even for the 25% less than 5,000 square feet. But that is supposition that, that's not part of the decision today.
Understand. I just wanted to have clarification.
We're
And so
not-
then, Mary, I think you said that there's concerns and you agree with those concerns. Is that something that can be somewhat summarized and shared?
Sam, I think that's,
No, okay, that's fine. I don't,
I mean, that's amongst the board.
okay.
Mary can certainly say that, but.
I guess I have the concern that we're okaying about to okay a buildable lot that nobody wants to build on. And that's, is there any other out for that? If not, I'm, okay. But we're okaying a lot that he doesn't want to build on.
You're unmuted.
I agree with Mary. That I'm concerned about that. I was just wondering if there's some historical preservation that we can to look into to maintain that lot stay as is with the barn structure on there. I think it's very important to maintain that.
That would
And
be a future.
I'm just wondering, is there any future being that we can be sure that is established as a historical structure?
Pardon me, am I allowed to speak?
I'm not. He is.
It's Michael Stavey.
Mr. Stavey, Michael?
Yes, Mr. Elliott. Yes, I don't know why, if it's not going to be buildable, why can't you put that in today's decision?
Because we're deciding on the variance of the property only. It's up to future planning and future requests of the town as to what, if anything, they would allow to be built on any of these lots.
Well, the variance can state that, not give a variance for proposed lot number 11.
But that would affect approval of the other lots.
Well, you can make the variance to include a non-buildable lot and 2 buildable lots in the variance.
We do that.
May I make a comment? The reason,
I'd like to ask Kent my question. Are we allowed to do what Mr. Stavey just suggested?
I don't know. Let me take a moment to contact the
Non-buildable lot for life.
legal advice regarding that. I do not know. I don't
may
I don't think you could do that with this action. My initial response, because that has not been a question put forward, and to put that limitation.
Right.
Now, it could be recommended, to say that be done, but to put that as a criteria for approval, to me, that on the face sounds like, no, that's.
I would be happy
Yeah.
to entertain a motion that the
yeah,
variance be granted as Sharon has moved, with the recommendation that any future structure on the revised lot 11 not be allowed. A building, a home, a house.
may I make a comment? If we
Now,
do,
it would have to come separately from the motion.
Yeah. And then Tom, I would,
Not valid.
yeah.
But what about this scenario? What if somebody buys that lot 70 years from now and they plan to incorporate part of the barn as part of the structure? I mean, we do that all the time. The DRC reviews things, the planning commission, they review items where a structure could be preserved. It's happened many, many, many times in this town. But there are other guidelines that are followed. I don't know that.
In fact, I think our recommendation certainly would not be binding. It would be up to any future planning or DRC meeting.
Yeah, DRC. Absolutely.
But I don't see anything wrong in making that recommendation, if we agree.
Okay, I would agree to that.
Mary or Coralie, does that satisfy either of you? Any further questions?
Barely. I'm still very concerned. I want those things to be preserved. And I certainly do want to have some open space, but that's not any of ours. But I get really concerned about some of our structures that are historic, and they're really not approved, or there are various things that have happened to them. We've approved, and then it changes the structure of the historical being.
I would agree with you, Corlo. I feel like the part of the problem we have in Georgetown, and we've always had this problem, and you know better than any of us, pretty much, that, you know, we put these rules in place to preserve the buildings we care about, and then we don't have any sort of way, I mean, I hate to use the term punish, but we have no way to punish individuals who allow structures like the infirmary on Rose Street to just be knocked down. You know, this is like a broader question where the town needs to step up and start imposing fines on people who knock down historic structures intentionally and try to bend the rules and get around the rules. And I just don't feel like this is that situation. And I certainly don't think this is the forum to, you know, we can't do anything about it, but I mean, where are the fines? How could we lose the infirmary? How could we lose the house at Rose and 8th Street 7 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever that house was knocked down and rebuilt? I just, the problem is not with, you know, this barn. The problem is that the town needs to get much stricter on, you know, on homeowners who intentionally knock down a building.
Well, I certainly appreciate the Snittrans coming forth and saying they want to save that particular building and that they want to move the lot line so it will include the entire building. And I think that's great. And of course, we all have our roots here, and we still want to keep these things we're so unique in our state, or unique in the West, keeping our buildings as best we can. So I guess that's my whole thing. Let's keep our buildings. And
from what I'm hearing, that's exactly what Mr. and Mrs. Schnitgren have been arguing.
I agree. I'd say power to them.
Am I right, George?
Yes. In fact, I think I really agree with Sharon, you know, that the town really needs to do something about making sure that the structures that are here and the new structures that are built really fit with the architecture and the feeling of the town.
They're not prefabs.
You can't build prefabbed houses
In our neighborhood.
and what, you know, in a neighborhood are really not appropriate. And,
Chalets aren't.
you know, this block, these 2 blocks around our street are really indicative of planning that really did not have a good effect. There's a lot of houses on these streets that really should not be here, but they're here.
Right.
I agree with you, George, on that. Definitely.
But you cannot stop progress. Yeah, you cannot stop people, you know, Georgetown is a very unique place. And but progress is still gonna envelop us eventually.
You can't control the future.
So we can't control the future, but we need to put some protections in place, and hopefully the property owners that have them are going to protect the property that they have.
So agree.
Okay, I'm going to second Sharon's motion, and then I'm going to go through the individual findings for variance before we vote on that, because this is necessary. We have to do this. You all.
Okay, excuse me, Tom.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Michael and Sam are both asking to make another comment. I don't know if you would like that or not.
Well, let's keep it to 60 seconds each.
Okay.
Because we really have to put an end to this sometime. Go ahead. Each one has 60 seconds.
Thank you, and I apologize. Again, this is my first time in, so I should have had my act together a little bit better, Tom. I apologize.
Go ahead, Sam.
So I have just 2 quick questions. Have you considered reducing the lot 11 and expanding 13 and 12 so you reduce the risk of that lot being built at some point in the future? That's just one question. And the second is, go ahead, George.
You can't do that.
And it won't protect the building.
You can't move the lot line on lot 11 anywhere but to the south.
Oh, got it.
Be bigger.
To the north.
Or to the north.
It has to get a
To
bigger.
the north, yeah.
It has to go into lot number 12. There's no other way of doing it.
We're not.
Understand. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Why can't you keep the lot number, the pros not number 3 just like it is and expand the other 2?
Because the lot line on lot 11 goes through the shed.
Yes. Okay, you're right. Thank you. And the other thing is, you are creating the future, Mr. Elliott, when you make these variances. So if you want to make that a non-buildable lot or keep it a buildable lot, you're in either case you're determining the future, and the future will look back and say, that's what they determined.
I don't mind considering making a recommendation, but I don't think it's, I think that's all we can do is a recommendation.
Under Colorado law.
You know, there is another option, Michael.
Yes.
The town could move or put into process to make that building an historical building, which would protect it forever.
Okay.
But I don't know that it's a historical building. It's just very old. And it needs to be
there's a difference.
Okay. It's not historical.
So age alone doesn't make a building historical.
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there was a horse that lived in there 100 years ago.
Maybe 2.
Or maybe 2 horses.
And a chicken.
Right.
We're part of a historic district, though.
When we bought the property, we bought it because they said they were going to force it to be torn down, and they had lawyers.
Yep.
And they were able to tear it down because it was encroaching on lot 12. And
Okay,
it had no historical value.
I'm going to put an end to the public comment.
Thank you.
I'm going to go on and ask the board members to look at the findings for the variance so that we can go through this specifically. And I'm going to start with number 1. Are there unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness of the lot or lots, or other physical conditions peculiar to the affected property? I would propose that the best answer for that is yes.
I would agree.
Tom, what page are you on?
It's Georgetown Board of Adjustment findings.
It's our separate page, our usual findings.
Thank you.
You got it?
Yes, thank you.
So it's the first point. There are 2 yeses.
Here.
Mary and Coralou, what do you say?
On the first 2?
Yeah, on the first one, the unique physical circumstances or conditions, such as irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness.
I'll say yes.
I think that's the obvious answer there.
Yes.
Okay. Does the applicant's property have unusual circumstances or conditions that do not exist throughout the neighborhood or district in which the property is located? I think we should consider there the half size of lot 14 and also the old shed. And I think the best answer there would be yes.
I agree.
Yep, I agree.
Okay,
Everybody agree? Yes?
yes.
Do such physical circumstances or conditions mean the property cannot reasonably be developed in conformity with the provisions of Title 17 of the Municipal Code Land Use Regulations? I think it's obvious that that's a yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Has such unnecessary hardship been created by the applicant? Well, the applicant didn't build that shed, and the applicant has given us the reasons why he purchased the property. I don't believe that the applicant has created any unnecessary hardship. So I think
So agree.
there is no.
I agree.
No.
No,
Okay. Will the variance as requested after the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use of development of adjacent property. Again, I'm suggesting the best answer is no.
I
So
would,
No,
Looked at the character. Everybody agree no?
I would agree no, unless we were to disallow the lot 11, which I think we've all agreed that we can't do anyway. So
Right,
I say no.
okay. Is the variance as requested the minimum variance that will afford relief and the least modification possible of the title provisions which are in question?
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
yes,
Yes. Everybody agree?
Yes.
yes,
Does the variance as requested permit development in a flood hazard area, in a geologic hazard area, or on a lot having a slope in excess of 30%, contrary to the provisions for such development as cited in Title 17? There's no evidence of any flood hazard or geologic hazard. So the best answer, in my opinion, is no. Does everybody agree?
Agreed.
agreed.
Okay, additional findings from the sign code. Are there special circumstances or conditions such as the existence of buildings, topography, vegetation, sign structures, or other matters?
Tom,
Well,
those three questions are just if the variance is regarding a sign.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Not-
It is sign code.
And
Right.
I was just reading.
Just keeping going along. Yeah, you're just trucking along. That's okay.
All right.
I did want to mention, you had asked me a question and I said I would talk with the town attorney.
Oh, yes.
And as far as the statement regarding lot 11, putting a condition saying that it's not
Yes.
buildable, that's not, you're not in the historic preservation. So that's not the purpose of the variance request, and that's not the purpose of the Board of Adjustment.
So it would probably not even be appropriate for us to make a recommendation one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you can recommend, but it cannot be part of the motion. Or if you want to make sure there's only 2 buildable lots, then the option is to deny the request. That's what the town attorney's opinion is. That the only option for the Board of Adjustment is to grant a lesser variance, but that's really not an option in this case. I mean, sometimes when you have a request, sometimes you can make, when the side setback is 10 feet and they want it to be 5 feet, you can make it 7 feet, something like that. That's not really an option in this case. So that was what the town attorney stated. So.
All right.
Question. Is there anything in any of our books or anything that we can do to make that a historical structure? We have to go through the state on that, I'm sure, but I think that would be something that we as a town or the Snitchgrens could help us maintain that is a historical structure in our town. And
I
to
don't know
maintain it-
enough about that process to do that, to recommend that, but that can certainly be looked into as far as from the property owner and from, town staff assisting with that. So.
Thank you.
Okay. And
Whoops, Mary has something.
the exterior of the barn could be made an easement and donated to History Colorado. The Hotel de Paris has no right to change the exterior of that building because History Colorado has the easement ownership for that.
Okay.
Just saying, if the George wanted and Rita wanted to do that, there is a process to have the exterior, which means I suppose it could fall down, but it would be protected by that.
Okay.
Just saying,
That's just information for the property owner.
just information.
We've had a motion and a second, and I'm going to read the motion again. And then we'll have a vote on that if there's, after any further discussion. And then after that, if appropriate, if anyone wants to bring up a motion for a recommendation, I'll entertain it. So the motion that's been made and seconded reads as follows. I move to approve, and you can read this along in the section that has our three choices. And this is choice number 2. I move to approve the
Here
variance.
it comes.
Got it?
It just, I think Tom muted. I don't know.
It just froze. Our computers here at Town Hall just froze for, it was 10 o'clock.
You want to read
So-
the motion? This is what the motion is.
No, I heard what the motion.
Oh,
Thank you.
Shall I go on?
No, yes, I don't know.
Could you repeat what you said, Tom? Sorry, our computers froze here.
Okay, I'm going to read the motion and seconded motion that, and then we'll vote on it after any appropriate discussion. I move to approve the variance request of George and Rita Schnittgrund, Block 42, lots 11 to 14, Main Street, between 9th Street and 10th Street of the Georgetown Municipal Code, Section 17.16.041. Excuse the clock. Historic residential district area / bulk regulations to permit 3 buildable lots of less than 5,000 square feet with the following conditions. 1, a subdivision exemption plat be prepared by a licensed land surveyor in accordance with the town's final subdivision plat checklist. Is there any further discussion from the board members?
I have to think.
Now call for the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
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 Opposed? Cora Lou, are you?
No,
voting?
I approve.
Okay, the motion to approve has been granted unanimously. So congratulations to the Schnittgrunds. And now,
Very much.
are there any further recommendations that the board wants to move on?
Question, Tom, on this that we just approved, we have 2 points under, below, a subdivision exemption plat will be prepared. And then any other conditions? Do we have any other conditions that we can put onto that?
Not on the motion.
Okay,
The motion was made and seconded and voted on as is. That now if anyone wishes to make a recommendation, I suppose we can consider voting on it, but it is only a recommendation and certainly not binding.
I don't think, well, that we were moving pretty fast. I don't think we gave the Schnittgrunds, and I think they believe in this, maintaining the historical value of the barn, whether it's been acknowledged or not by the state or by historic
Do that, Cora Lou, but make a motion urging the Schnittgrunds to maintain this as this barn.
Yeah. I mean, I just, because it's right now, it's still an open air. It's an open question. They could go in and tear it down,
Is there
No,
We're not tearing it down.
but
at
they're
all.
not going to. We know they're not going to, but because that's their purpose of this whole thing. But if it happens to, something happens to them and suddenly they are no longer able to,
Yeah.
Cora Lou, tell me your recommendation.
my recommendation that we make it a historic structure.
You can't do that.
We can't do that.
No, but that we say that we would like to have it become one.
I recommend that the landowners maintain the the building for historical reasons, I think. But that, again, in my opinion, is non-binding. Do you want to make that recommendation, Corlew?
Even though it'd be non-binding, yes, it would at least make people who read later on, who are not part of us, understand that we really wanted to save it as a historical structure.
Along those same lines, I mean, if we're going to make that recommendation on this land, I feel like that recommendation needs to be made to the other boards in town, urging them to step up and make some changes that are really going to be binding.
Okay,
There has to be a finding system if somebody knocks something down, like the old infirmary. And we've got nothing to protect. I agree with you 100%, Corlew. It needs to be townwide. The Board of Selectmen need to step up and make some changes to the code.
Kent, will you make sure that our recommendation is known to the Board of Selectmen, to the Planning Commission, and to the DRC?
Sure.
Can we
Okay,
also recommend that the old fence be not torn down while we're recommending?
no, that's totally different recommendation.
Not part of the whole.
I don't think that's going way too far, I think, Mary. I can't see anybody that wants the fence torn down.
We don't even want the
That
building.
doesn't do any, okay, fine, whatever.
And needs a second. Is there anyone who will second that?
I'll second her recommendation.
All right, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Okay.
Corlew?
I said aye.
All right, the recommendation is made. Is there any further business before this the commission, Board of Adjustment? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Second,
all in favor? Aye.
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 Sharon? She's frozen. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck, George.
Thank my team around me.